In this recording, we're going to work on factoring trinomials or quadratic equations in the form ax squared plus bx plus c. Again, these will be trinomials. And this is from chapter 5.4. We're going to factor the quadratic equation again, the trinomial, in the form ax squared plus bx plus c using the AC method. Now, you're not going to really be familiar with the AC method because your textbook does not address that method. However, it is a way to quickly, maybe not quickly, but efficiently figure out the factoring for these more complex trinomials, quadratics, that have an a that is something other than 1. So here are your steps. You multiply a times c, which means you have to write a, b, and c down to begin with. Then you find b, and I'll show you the steps for finding b. After that, you use the grouping method, and then the distributive property, and then finally you'll end up with factored form. Our third step will be to check it with the model and the table method, or with the table method, which is a lot like the model. So here's an example. And your example is going to be 3x squared plus 7x plus 2. So first of all, it's a trinomial because it has 3 terms. And then it's a quadratic because it's to the second power. All of these will be, in this situation, all of these will be a quadratic trinomial. Okay, our first step is to write our a, b, and c, which we do pretty much for anything related to quadratics. A is 3, b is 7, and c is 2. And then we're going to multiply. Step 1 will be to multiply a times c, so 3 times 2. 3 times 2, which equals 6. Now, the next part is then b. So we want to do and then b. Well, the b value is going to be something. The b value right now is 7. And so we have something plus something equaling 7. So we go back up here and we figure out the factors of 6. And the factors of 6, you have a couple of choices. They're going to be either 2 times 3, which you see right there, or they're going to be 1 times 6. Now you have to choose from those 2 pairs of factors, and sometimes there's more than 2 pairs. Sometimes there's less, there might only be 1 pair. But you have to choose which of those pairs, when added together, will give you 6, or give you 7. So 2 and 3 would give you 5. 1 and 6, however, would give you 7. So our 7, and I should have put the x on there, our 7x, which is our b value, is going to be gotten from taking 1x plus 6x. Now, it usually doesn't matter which order you wrote those in. We'll give you your 7x. Okay, so that ends that step. Now, you're going to bring down, so you're going to come from your 3x squared is just going to get brought down in this next step. So that's going to be 3x squared. And your 2 is also just going to be brought down. Let's do that in blue. And what's happening is you're going to bring down for 7x, so you brought your 2 down as well. Those 2 always just come down. Your 7x isn't going to come down as 7x. It's going to come down as plus 1x plus 6x plus 2, which all you did was stretch it out. 1x and 6x is in fact 7x. Now we're going to use the grouping method. So this is going to be the grouping method. And grouping indicates parentheses, so we're going to put parentheses here and here. So we've grouped 3x squared plus 1x together, and we've grouped 6x plus 2. And from there, we're going to use the distributive property, which is kind of like division. You take out the things that are common. So in 3x squared and 1x, the x, they have one common x. And in 6x and 2, they have a common 2. So here's what it's going to look like. You factor out the x. I'm going to factor out the x. So x, and then x times what gives you 3x squared? Well, 3x does. And then you factored out the x, so you say x times what gives you 1x? Well, 1. And you always check it. X times 3x, 3x squared. X times 1, 1x. Bring down your plus sign. And then for 6x and 2, you're factoring a common number out of 6x and 2, dividing it out if you wish to think of it in that manner. 2 and 6 have 2 in common, so you factor out a 2. So you say to yourself, 2 times what gives me 6x? Well, that's going to be 3x. And then you say 2 times what gives me 2? Well, that's going to be 1. Now, what you have to see here is that you have to see that this is 3x plus 1 and that is 3x plus 1 because that is one of your sides. So when you do the table method, this is going to be a binomial times a binomial. So when you do the table method, one of your values is going to be 3x and 1. That's this one right here, 3x and 1. And the other value is going to be this x plus this 2. So it's going to be x and positive 2. So let's finish up on this side. The last step that you had here is the factored form will occur. So this is going to be our factored form right here, our next step. So this is a bullet, this is a bullet. Here's your 6th bullet. You just take your x plus 2, which is there and there. That's one of your sides in your multiplication problem. And then your other side, and these two have to be exactly the same, is 3x plus 1. This should be correctly factored. Okay, so it should be correctly factored. Now let's go over and check it because these are more complicated. So we've got 3x times x because 3x plus 1 was one of your sides, x plus 2 is the other. 3x times x is 3x squared. 3x times 2 is 6x. 1 times x is 1x or x. And 1 times 2 is 2. Remember, the table method is really nice because you can see your like terms are always diagonally from one another. So you have 3x squared. You have 1x and 6x, which is 7x. And you have 2. So we're just checking that this factoring, x plus 2 times 3x plus 1, is in fact what we started with, which the original problem was 3x squared plus 7x plus 2. So this right here is functioning as a check. So this right here is your check. And you should always check because you need to make sure that you've done this correctly. Okay, so now we have this 4x squared plus 16x minus 9. So the first thing you need to do is your A, B, and C. Let's get in the habit of doing that. So A is 4, B is 16, C is negative 9. Now, what we're going to do next is we are going to look at our factoring pattern. So I'm going to go down, leave that space there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is where we're going to end up. So there's something times something. This is our factored form. You need to write in your factoring pattern. Whenever you have a subtraction between the middle and the last term, it is going to be a plus minus pattern. So we're going to put that in right away. Now we're going to go ahead and go AC, which is A times C. And that's going to be 4 times negative 9, which equals negative 36. Now, negative 36 has a whole lot of choices. So we're going to have 1 and 36. We're going to have 2 and 18. We're going to have 3 and 12. We're going to have 4 and 9. We're going to have, we've already got 3 and 12, and we've already got 2 and 18. So when we've got all of them right here, now I haven't worried about the negative yet. We'll get to that in just a moment. So we do AC, which we just did, and then B. B is 16. So you have to say what plus what equals 16. Now we know for a fact that this is negative 36. So one of these had to be positive and one had to be negative. We didn't worry about that initially. So it means it's going to act like subtraction because you have a plus minus. So 36 minus 1 is 35. Doesn't work. 18 minus 2 is 16. Oh, that works, but we need a positive 16, so it's going to be negative 2 times positive 18 is this is our one that we want right here, this negative 2 times the positive 18. So then we have negative 2x plus 18x equals 16x. That's our middle term. Okay, so that's kind of your first two steps right there, and your last few steps are your last three steps are going to tie into what you've done up here. So that separates out here. So the first thing you are going to work on is going to be the grouping method. Grouping method. And the grouping method entails that you take the 4x squared, just bring it down. Then you take the negative 9, just bring it down, minus 9. But the 16x is going to come down as 2, so it's going to come down as minus 2x, or plus a negative 2x if you prefer, plus 18x. Now you want this to always be a plus sign right here. So if it's not, if it's negative 18x, then you would have to go plus a negative 18x. You group using parentheses. So we group 4x squared together with 2x, and we group 18x together with minus 9. You always want a plus sign in the middle here. That's very, very important. Now we're going to go to the distributive property. And the distributive property is like the opposite of division. Or you could say I'm dividing out. Which numbers and or variables do 4x squared and 2x have in common? Well, they have a 2 and an x in common. So you're going to factor out 2x. And then you say to yourself, 2x times what gives me 4x squared? Well, that would be 2x. And then you say 2x times, put your subtraction down, 2x times what gives me 2x? Well, that's 1. Bring down your plus sign. And then you have 18x and minus 9. You say, what do 18 and 9 have in common? Well, they have a 9, so we factor out the 9. And you say 9 times what is 18x? It's 2x. 9 times, your subtraction. 9 times what gives you 9? Oh, that's 1. So you've done the distributive property. Now you're simply to the last step, which is your factoring, and you already know it's plus minus. So you're going to bring down, this has to be the same, 2x minus 1 and 2x minus 1, because that's one of your sides. So 2x minus 1. And when you check this, I always use the table method. I guess you could use FOIL if you wanted to. But when you check this on the table method, one side is 2x and negative 1. The other side is going to be 2x and 9. So 2x plus 9. And this is going to be your factored form. That should be your answer, but you do want to check it. So you're going to have 2x times 2x is 4x squared. That matches the original problem. Then you have 2x times 9 is 18x. And you have negative 1 times 2x is negative 2x. These are like terms. And they give you 16x, which matches. And then finally, you've got negative 1 times 9, which is negative 9, minus 9. That matches. This is your check. This just tells you, did you do your factoring correctly? And yes, you did. So factored form is 2x plus 9 times 2x minus 1. Now I'm going to do a second video that has a little bit more information, so you may want to look at that one as well.